We now welcome Dale Earnhardt Jr., driver of the number 88 National Guard Diet Mountain Dew Chevrolet. Dale Jr. currently sits second in points with 1 win so far this season. Dale Jr., going into the second half of the season, talk a little bit about being here at New Hampshire this weekend.
Just like racing here, always run really well here, and we had a good fortune of tire testing with Goodyear a couple months ago, and that went really well, and we're happy with the way that went. So just been looking forward to coming here for the race, and like I said, we've had some really good cars here, and I feel like that this is one of my better tracks, and I just hope to eventually get to Victory Lane one day, and this weekend as good as any.
All right, we'll take questions for Dale Jr. Please raise your hand. We'll get a wireless mic to you. Please state your name and affiliation. We'll start in the back with Claire, then we'll come back up to Doug.
Claire Lang, Sirius XM NASCAR Radio. A lot of people struggle with this track. Why do you think you know why this is one of your better tracks, and what is it that you like about this track?
It kind of lends itself to the short track mentality, and the style of racing is a bit like you find at short tracks, and I enjoy racing at short tracks. Have a great track record at all the short tracks we run at, so I kind of feel like that's a bit of my wheelhouse, and this place is sort of fits toward that.
Go ahead, Doug.
Doug Rice, PRN. Dale, obviously you're wearing the National Guard colors today. I wanted to get your reaction to when you heard that the Army was pulling out of car sponsorship for next year, and your thoughts on that.
I was disappointed to hear about that. They've been a part of the sport for a very long time, and it's just unfortunate. But I feel like that our program's really productive. Apparently that they don't feel like that theirs was productive, but I feel like ours is successful, and marketing in any business is hard work, and I feel like we do a good job of it, always have, and I feel pretty good about the relationship I have with the Guard. But it's just disappointing when any company or a big entity like that leaves the sport entirely.
Okay, we'll go Nate, David, Kurt, and Bob.
Nate Ryan, USA Today. Dale, talking about wanting to get a win here. During the Chase era, the 8 seasons of the Chase era, 4 times the champion has won one of the 2 races here. I asked Jimmy about that, and he said that it was probably because the track is so unique, and it's kind of like Indy being a barometer because it's so difficult. Could you talk about that? Like, would winning a race here kind of stamp you more as a contender, and does it mean more because it is maybe so difficult and so unique compared to the rest of the tracks?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It is different, there's really, it's not like it's not really a short track, and it's not your typical 1.5 miles. So yeah, it's different, and it's fun, and the race here I think is like the perfect length, and just everything about it, it is enjoyable. Coming to a racetrack that's not like every other track you run on, and the race is a bit short, so there's urgency all the time, and which is fun. There's excitement all the time inside the cockpit, which is fun. So every lap and every car you're around is important because the race is so short. You have to race really hard all day long, because every position, even in the first 100 laps, is one you might not get back, in the next 200 laps. And it goes by so quick, so you can't really be too patient. You kind of have to work every lap. But the corners are, that you wouldn't think they're very fun because they're so flat and basic. But for whatever reason, how the seams and how the groove lines up and where you run kind of moves around and changes a little bit, and it's a bit of a driver's racetrack in that regard, where you gotta, if the car's not really turning, you can use the apron a little bit in and off the corner. And there's a seam above the groove that's just a foot above the groove that you don't want to have nothing to do with, because the car just takes off and pushes really bad if you get the right front end of that. So you got to be mindful every lap to run into the corner as hard as you can, but just not so hard that you get into that seam there and lose the nose. So it's a driver's racetrack, and I really enjoy it. I really enjoy running here. Always have.
Go ahead, David.
Yeah, Dale, David Newton, ESPN.com. Matt Kenseth in here earlier said he'd be shocked if NASCAR didn't have a rock-solid case before suspending a driver. I was wondering, what was your reaction? How do you feel about that and your reaction to AJ's situation?
I think that's what I tell myself, to make myself not as nervous, about it. I mean, anytime somebody gets in trouble, regardless of what it is, when you don't know the true identity of the crime or don't have a real understanding of the chain of events, it's everybody gets curious, nervous, whatever. But I'm certain that as as big and structured an organization as NASCAR is, and the agency they have that works with them on their drug program, they can't make any mistakes. They can't afford to make any mistakes. So I assume, although I don't have any answers or don't know anything about this particular incident, I have to believe that they are making the right calls and the right choices, and there's a reason, to make the call they made. So, even though you don't get what you want in terms of details, you have to believe that the program is true, and it's it's definitely a good thing to have, but you just have to believe in it, that that they're doing what's right and they're not making any mistakes. So I mean, they can't afford to, so you just have to assume the best.
Okay, we'll go Kurt, Bob, Mike, and Ryan. Go ahead, Kurt.
Kurt Cavan, Indianapolis Star, and a quick follow-up to this. When you get to Indianapolis, and I know it's a week ahead, but such an iconic place, and even optimistically, the place might only be half full. Do you notice that? Do you care as a race car driver on race weekend if that's the case?
Well, you care that the grandstands aren't full. You want full grandstands everywhere you go, but I'm not sure. I personally particularly take notice each weekend or at a place like Indy, where I wouldn't particularly take note of where the fans are and how many are there. But yeah, I mean, when there's I don't know Indianapolis well enough to really notice what a full Indianapolis looks like versus what we'll see when we go there. But I do know, I do recognize things like when we go to Daytona, and I remember one particular event in July where the race fans were upset about the race ending under caution, and they littered the back straightaway with seat cushions. And then when we run there this past weekend, there wasn't anybody in the back grandstand. So, I mean, you notice things like that.
And given the record heat that we've seen across most of the country, is it sometimes amazing that people will sit in these metal grandstands at racetracks, given how hot it's been?
Yeah, I mean, when I was younger, before I was driving, I would sneak out of the condos at Charlotte and get into the grandstands and watch from the grandstands. And but that's about all the experience I have of watching a race from that point of view. But you definitely have to use precaution as far as hydrating and drinking plenty of water and wearing enough sunscreen in some of these places.